Okay, so tonight, it's our usual, we usually have this once a year, jigs and fixtures. Usually we learn a lot, see how ingenious our members are. I can see we got some really complicated stuff here. So, some real thought went into some of this. So I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people don't know me, but I do a lot of epoxy work. And when I epoxy a bowl, I need some way to turn it real slow so when I put the epoxy on, it'll level out. And so I made this. It's got a little $3 motor from China. And, and then a 6-inch bolt, you know, with 8 threads on the end of it and 2 bearing blocks on there. All total, I think the bearing blocks were like 2 for $20. The motor was like $2.50. But it's an asynchronous motor. I mean, you can stop it and it'll go the other way too. It'll go both directions. But I got a little video. If I can, will that show up?
There you go. Right there.
That's kind of a bowl on that block turning, and then I put epoxy on the inside and the outside, and it's just self-leveling. And just let it turn overnight. Get done, and that's it.
How'd you change the direction on it?
Just stop it.
Just stop it and it'll turn.
Yeah.
It'll change.
It'll go either way. They're asynchronous motors, so it'll go either direction.
That cheap a motor.
Yep. Oh yeah. I bought about half a dozen of them. So this is a 4 and 6 RPM. I got a 9 to 10, different speeds. So, any questions or?
I see you got it angled down. Does the
That's so the epoxy can run off. You know, put a piece of wax paper down here, and the epoxy runs off. Because you know, it'll, like I say, it's self-leveling. It'll just leave a nice thin layer of epoxy on there.
Okay. Doesn't leave a dribble or anything where it runs
Nope.
off?
Not if you let it keep running.
Do you return it then afterwards?
No, it's done. I usually let it run overnight. Put it in there during the day and just let it run overnight. And next morning, just take it off.
What are you making, indentation for the epoxy to go into, or?
No, I just take a brush and just brush it on, brush it in here, brush it on here.
It's his entire finish.
Yeah, yeah. And then I brush it instead of spraying it or something like that. I just brush it on.
Are you using a specific epoxy, like casting epoxy?
It's tabletop epoxy. Any kind of epoxy will work. The deep pour, the tabletop. To me, they're all the same. I do a lot of casting. I use pressure pots to make bowls, but to me, all the epoxies are about the same. I've tried different ones, and they're all about the same.
What's a good epoxy general to use?
Probably, well, like right now, Amazon's got 2 gallons for $72. So I bought 4 gallons. I use a lot of epoxy.
Two-part?
Yeah, 2-part. Yeah, you get 2 gallons, 1 part of A and 1 part of B. But you know, you can go total boat, and it's like $170 for 2 gallons. It can get expensive. But
What's the shelf life?
I've had it for over a year. Some of it over a year. You buy it, it's been on for over a year, and it doesn't seem to hurt anything. Now, I think once you open it up, you know, I think it might, but I've had some open for 5 or 6 months and everything is fine.
Wonder if storing it in your beer fridge would make it last longer.
The beer? No, I'll tell you what I do. I didn't take a picture. I took you know, those tubs that have lids. I got a clear one and turn it upside down. I put a light bulb in there, and I put my epoxy in there to keep it warm. You know, to keep your epoxy 65 degrees or above, warmer. So I just have a light bulb in there, and I set my epoxy in there and put the tub down over it, and just keeps it warm.
Okay.
Okay, you can freeze epoxy and take it out of the freezer and warm it up real quick, put a little bit of denatured alcohol with it and stir it up, and it'll still be reusable, but you gotta do it real quick.
I wondered if storing in a refrigerator would lengthen the shelf life. But if you haven't
I don't know, I haven't tried that.
had it go that bad
I don't,
for a year,
yeah,
Probably
I use
need
it
to.
pretty fast, so I don't have time to put it in the freezer.
don't have a reason to.
No.
Well, this was a brainchild over probably a couple months. I was wanting a way to put a segmented piece together if you were wanting to do an open segment and have so many degrees in between your pieces for equal spacing, or for like doing a basket weave and keeping it all even. So I kind of got a little carried away with the weight, but it doesn't slide around while you're using it. It's got a hub and bearing out of a late model Toyota Highlander and a brake rotor, and I knocked the studs out of the wheel studs out of the hub and bearing, and then I tack welded the rotor to it, so it's all one piece. And I got it bolted through the MDF. I countersunk the holes in the bottom. Piece of all thread with a nut, and made a wing nut out of it so I could take this off, take the top piece. I could put a silicone mat in here too, so in case any glue leaked out, I wouldn't end up with a 50-pound piece of junk. And put your pieces on there, and once you get everything set, then you can put and clamp her down. Got my degree wheel in here where you can set it. You get your degrees down here, and it transfers up here to the other pointer. Once you get it where you want it, you lock it down. It doesn't move around. And the biggest problem I've had with it so far is where to keep it.
That's everybody.
Yeah, it's too big, but everything's adjustable. I got the piece here is adjustable, so you can follow your stack up, and also the pointer here is adjustable in and out, so you can stay close to your work in here, and then just lock her down wherever you want to keep it.
Where'd you come up with your timing wheel?
That is a degree wheel for putting a camshaft in a race motor. And I put it on. I chucked it up on our brake lathe at work, and cut the center out of it to where it would fit on the brake rotor. And then I took a die grinder and touched it up to make it fit. I also cut into the brake rotor. I don't know if I can lift that up or not. But I cut into the brake rotor, so this is almost flush here too, so that wouldn't interfere with anything. But that's I've only made one bowl with it so far, but it did seem to work pretty good. There was a little bit of a curve when I went to tighten it down. It tried to slip a little bit, but if you're watching out for it, it stays put pretty well.
Did you bring the bowl in here?
No, I didn't. I had a guy wanting to buy it about as soon as I got it done. So
I don't know why you did that. We should have seen it first.
well, he had cash money.
What it is a 3D printer. And basically I told him, I said, I'm a nerd. I've been in computers since 1976. I was a CAD programmer at age 19 for Black & Veatch. And I've always liked computers, and I always liked anything that kind of creates things. And so these are some of the simple things. I didn't have to actually draw these up. Somebody else had done that for me. So all I had to do was print them. But this is for like finials, anything you might have that's really small that you can just use a normal Nova chuck on. and you can make different ones for different sizes, ornaments, anything you're wanting to turn, and you don't have to spend a lot of money getting a collet or something like that, or a special chuck. And these are strong enough to hold it. You know anything about 3D printing, there's different filaments where you can print a lot of different things depending on what you're wanting to print. This is what they call PETG, and it's got a lot of strength to it, and it is weather and UV resistant, so you can use this outdoors. Most people print PLA, which is the cheapest, but it's not weather resistant, and weather and water and everything affect that. This piece right here, filament wise, cost me under $2, and electricity to run the machine. Machine itself, the one I have is self-enclosed. It's run me about $850, but I've already run enough stuff to probably pay for it in a year. I've created a lot of stuff for work, a lot of stuff for the wife, kids, everything like this. This is a little heavier, dutier one. It's kind of raised up on the edges, so if you're doing something that needs a little more strength to it, runs like that. Other pieces they have, these are our actual collets that you can actually put in a regular jaws like this. This one happens to be an 8mm, and I think this one's 11mm, but you can get them at any sizes you want. So if you got something unique, something small enough, it'll just fit right inside this jaw, and you don't have to worry about spending $50 for a collet and then hoping you got something that'll go in. Some other pieces, if you're doing kind of work you're wanting to hold things, they have different pieces. These are threaded. I don't know if we can see, the machine actually prints the threads inside this. It's kind of hard to see because it's all the same color, but so you can get different thread patterns for whatever lathe you have, up to this size. You can get, the opposite end of this if you want to do a ball or something like that, or something that's round, so it'd be concave. That guy sells a spoon maker, and it's a piece that actually fits on a Nova lathe, and it's a set of jaws that actually clamps that piece, so you can actually turn it and turn it around. You don't need any kind of special device. It just uses the same Nova lathe.
Well, a lot of people use compressed air to blow off their turnings and their lathe and inside hollow forms. And I've got a compressor, but I don't always turn it on, and it's not real handy. So I try to do some different ways of doing the same thing. And one of them is an air mattress pump. And I've seen people that will bolt it to the side of their lathe, and I have to watch my phone here, but get in with their side, and they can blow the, or do something like this. These are just, kind of a low-tech way, and even lower tech, and I've used this probably more than anything. It's real easy just to blow it off with your mouth. And if you don't have something like this, you can buy some tubing at the hardware store. Another thing is my wife had this thing she was using for some kind of crafts. It's just a little air. And like I said, if you don't have your compressor on, rather than turn it on, and I've got to run hose and everything, I'll just do something like this. It's a lot easier. And then something that's works pretty good, it's more expensive, is this canned air. So again, it's a low-tech way to do the same thing as an air compressor if you don't have your compressor handy ready to go. And something else, I was doing some things where I needed a lot of face plates, and I was what I'm doing is I'll take a regular face plate, and some of the decorative things I'll double stick tape them to a face plate, and the metal face plates are kind of expensive. I got several of them, and I kind of wanted to leave this stuff on there. I might not do something on for 2 or 3 weeks and tie it up. So I started turning some face plates out of wood. And I've got a 1" 8" shaft on my lathe. I got this tap from Penn State, really pretty expensive. In fact, at one time they had a sale on them, and it comes with the faceplate. It was cheaper to buy the tap, the faceplate, and a Forstner bit than it was to buy just a faceplate. And it's not real easy to turn the threads, but it does work. And then I've also got some 1" 8" all thread that I cut in pieces that I'll put my faceplates on after I've turned what I'm doing, put it down on a vise and tighten it up, and I've got a vise that swivels and does everything so I can get it at just the right angle. And the thing about the, as I said, it's not real, these faceplates aren't real easy to turn through the wood, but that's the bad news. The good news is I've not broken one yet.
Phil, I've done the same thing, and I found that if you put a little mineral oil on the wood, before you start tapping.
Mineral oil, I've used wax, different stuff, but I've still got to get a wrench on it to turn it.
Well, what I made myself a handle, a square hole, and it has a dimple in the back. You can line it up, with your tailstock, and just inch it ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's got just like you do on a machine lathe, but you get a great big wrench on it and round and round. And I got kind of. It took me about an hour for the first one. By the time I was finishing it up, I could do one in about 20 minutes, and kind of build up a little muscle doing it.
Phil's demo there on blowing stuff off, I have one myself. You make those big pins, stick pins, you have a lot of these tubes left over. So I call this my big blower. Just, cut the ends off. Here's one with the tip still on it, and just blow it. Then I save the cap, put it on the mouth side, so you're not picking it up and getting sawdust in your mouth all the time.
That's a good source of fiber.
Yeah. All right. And following Ron, with his chuck, I made some pin drilling chucks. These are from David Reed Smith's plans. Now, we were up here one Saturday or something, turning some pins, getting ready for railroad days or whatever. And we were trying to drill the pin blanks, and we were having a horrible time. We didn't have a pin jaws. So I looked this up and made one. You got little magnets here that holds it on the chuck, and it's made to specifically fit, whatever chuck you're using. Just simple deal. I think I've shown this before, but various ways to protect your tools. I made some leather covers, but the easiest way is just wine bottle cork. Just either drill or cut a hole in it to fit your tool. We've got various types of leather ones.
How many of those wine bottle cork ones are you up to now?
I don't know, however many tools I got. And along with the chucks, like the rubber chucky, that Ben had when he was doing his demo. I went home and made my poplar chucky. So you know, center up, you know, a hollow form here or whatever, and then you can't get it out, you know. Here's another pin chuck for, that other one was from a Nova chuck. This is from a Stronghold chuck. I think I've shown this one too. It's a bowl depth gauge. This goes up toward the headstock, and this width is from the face of your jaws back to the headstock. And then this is straight in line with this edge. And when you're turning the bowl, you know, it's in your chuck, and you slide this up and then measure the distance between this solid piece and the gauge. You know how thick your bottom is.
So you don't make a funnel, huh?
Yeah, that's the intent. I made an adjustable headstock piece, whatever you want to call it. Just slide it out if you've got a different size chuck or whatever. Okay. Just various sizes of sanders. This is a disc sander. This is one of those threaded blocks like Phil had. I just put it on a piece of plywood, turned it around, and it's got a Velcro back, and a Velcro tape. Well, I won't fit this way. This is 1 inch, that's 1.25 inches. The most expensive part is the Velcro. You can get it at Klingspor, and you can get it with the club discount. You know, if you log on to their website.
Is that a sheet of Velcro?
Yeah, it's a sheet. It's a big sheet.
Yeah, we're looking for one. Yeah, I didn't know Klingspor sold that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. And then, I think you've seen this before. These are sanding discs. You know, self-made, of course. Poplar. This is a screwdriver bit from Harbor Freight. Got one for each grit size. So you don't have to, and then you use this, make it snappy interchanger holder. And you just snap one on, snap it off, and snap another on. And I made myself a template to cut my own disc. That's 2 inch. And I've got 3 inch in there too. Seen one, seen them all. There's a video I made during COVID on our YouTube channel. Is it public or?
I think so.
I think it is.
Yeah.
On how I made those. This is just like a kneeling pad, you know, for a garden kneeling pad. This sponge, just glue it onto the wood, and then there's the the Velcro, and I make a disc that covers that, the right size, and then you just cut that off with a skew, just kind of, you know, like a knife, and you got it.
What kind of glue do you use to glue that funnel?
Shoe glue,
Shoe goo?
Shoe goo, yeah.
Okay.
That's great stuff. Well, it's for tennis shoes,
Oh, okay.
you know. On with more. I made my own table sander. This smaller 6-inch to go on the lathe. This goes in the banjo for the table. You can put the slot either direction. And if you don't have a tap that out, you can use a 1-inch nut. I had a friend weld this washer on it so I could mount it, and he didn't care if it was square or not. So it was a little off. So I had kind of a dickens of a time. I had to turn my wood down to make it run parallel with the nut.
Mel, what I did on mine, like your other one, is I just inlet the hole and just epoxied the nut in it.
Yeah, that worked great.
I didn't have a 1-inch 8-foot tab.
Yep. I just thought this was a great idea and I found out it wasn't quite so great. Here's another thing, these sanding fids. I don't know if you can see them or not. Got all kinds of different sizes. This is to save your fingers. Where's that sandpaper? I won't tear this up, but you just have a strip of sandpaper, put it in the slot. The way you make these is just turn it, you know, whatever shape and size you want. Then just cut a slot in it on the bandsaw. Then you set it in here and twist it like this, and you can sand the inside, you know, like cups, saucers, whatever. And you don't endanger twisting your finger off.
The wood doesn't scream when it gets
Huh?
The wood don't scream when it gets hot.
No. No. That is tempting, but anyway, all kinds of different sizes. Whatever size you need. And that's the size of it. Oh, except these. These are also sanding pads, solid, and I just made them to go in the chuck. They just, and I've made some, I don't think I have on a Morse taper, but they seem to want to come out. But I just made these to go on a chuck. It's just like any other little chuck. You just use some rubber cement, you glue it on, when it wears out, peel it off, and stick another one on. This is almost hardly worth talking about. This little nub. Just save some of these, and when you're jam chucking, going to fish in the bottom, you have a place for your tailstock point to go, and it's not poking your piece. Richard Raffin's big on those. So anyway, that's it. That's all.
Nicely done.
when I do segments, I don't have a drum sander. So what I'll do is I have a sanding plate like what Merle has, and put it on and just sand them. Well, I ran into it destroyed a lot of gloves, and so I made me a little holder to hold it nice and flat, and have a different size. I can make it bigger or smaller, and okay.
Usually tighten it down already.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, the force holds it on. You just kind of hold it level.
So do you just hold it up there by hand then?
Pardon me?
Do you just hold it up there by hand?
Yeah. I know, I'm cheap or whatever. and I have one chuck, and I have 3 different, sizes of jaws on it. And so if you're going to make a bowl, a vase, you're doing 2 at a time. So this is my other chuck. Just like what you're talking about. I mean, with yeah, it won't fit mine. But anyway, this is 7/8. It fits mine. And you notice it has paper on it. When I do lay my base down, when I use a brown wrapping paper, a sheet of it, and you put your glue on, put your paper on, put your glue on top, and stick it on. And then it makes it real easy to get off. You just wedge it in there. You can't hit it on here. You'll be turning that flat again. But you take it off and hit it, and then now breaks it off real easy. Oh, this thing. Like I said, mine is a 7/8 instead of a 1 inch. And so this is a 1.5 inch hole in my 7/8 nut. Put it on, put in a vise, and squeeze it down. And problem that I ran into was, and that's not very deep, and that's what a spacer is for. Or otherwise, when you put it in here, it's going to bottom out, and you're not going to tighten the nut, you're going to tighten it against the wood. And of course, you're afraid it might turn, so I put epoxy around it to kind of help hold it in. So as just a plate, with the waste block on it, you can still use it that way, or I've got 3 of these now with different sizes of waste blocks on them. Oh, one other thing. Okay, so the way I build them, I kind of course, one ring at a time, and I usually go ahead and I'll sand the bottom of one side on all of them, and then now I'm going to put it together. So I start with the plate, and then my I drilled a 9/6. I put a 9/16 hole in here, and so I could put it on my tailstock and bring it up. And I have another one that's twice that big. So as I'm building my bowls, I can build it as I put it together. Put it on, and then I got to flatten it. Then you have to let it set for 20-30 minutes. Then you can flatten it. Then do the next one, and flatten it, but glue it. Let it hold it, and you can turn it as you line your segments up. And like I was saying, I only have one chuck, so if I'm doing a bottom, I have to do it again. So I'll do it on that one to put them together. But I just sand one side and then put it, and then use and then flatten it off with the tools on the other side. Okay. I'm not nervous. Any questions at all? You got it?
Well, I too have a 3D printer. And my jig, I don't have a Raptor. I have a one-way sharpening jig, but I don't have a Raptor dealie. So you can print these like, I think I have every size but 45 degree. But you set that in there and then you put it in your arm and slide it up to the wheel and it sets it to, sorry. So, and then I think 2-inch sticky outie is the standard. So there's a little deal that you can just stick on there. I also have a block screwed into my grinder that's got a 2-inch hole in it too, but it's just easy to slide it on and slide it off. And this also has a setting or a side here where you can set the V-arm to whatever angle it is, so you get exactly whatever the degree is for the item. So this one happens to be 40 degrees. And like our illustrious leader here, I have a whole bunch of Nova jaws that I printed too, and they have a pin set too that you can pin jaws. But centering up face plates, so this just 1-inch spindle, and then it's got a hole through the center so that you can center your item when you're doing a face plate on something that's already round or whatever, to make it a little easier to get dead center. So anyway, that's it.